Spurs take on the Clippers tonight, and just how long will the rebuild take?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for KENS 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hey, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. Second game of back-to-back is tonight. Spurs-Clippers. We'll be looking at that and much more, including just how long will the Spurs rebuild take, even if they're to get the number 1 or possibly the 2 or 3 pick. Hey, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. So let's go ahead and bring in our guest to tackle everything and making his Locked On Spurs debut. My colleague over at KENS 5, the TV side of things. Let's go and bring him on. He is Vinny Vinzetta, who made fun of me at the Alamo Dome because I came back with my tail between my legs when I realized sitting at the floor seat was a bad idea because of no Wi-Fi. Good job, Vinny. Way to go. Good job.
Yeah, Jeff, how are you, sir? Yeah, you mentioned that the Wi-Fi was an issue inside the dome that night.
You and think about it. Vinny and Casey Vieira, they were kind of having fun with me about it. Oh, you're going to the floor seat. And then I said, yeah, guys, I'll see you later. And Vinny was the first person to see me crawl back saying, Vinny, it's pointless to go down there. It doesn't work. Everything's broken down there. It's pointless. Good job, Vinny.
Yeah, it's like, Jeff, us underlings will hang out here in the press box and you go ahead and enjoy the side. But by the way, it was good to shake your hand. I'd never met you in person in all the years you've been associated with the Locked On Spurs and KENS. So good to meet you that night, and I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you today.
Not a problem. It was great to meet y'all too. Yeah, of course, I think everybody knows I split time between San Antonio, which is my home, and New York City. So, just kind of missing each other and whatnot. And plus, the stuff I do for the KENS 5 Sports digital side, doesn't really lend to being in the office. Just need a laptop and you're good to go. So, but yeah, it definitely was good to meet you as well. And Vinny's going to be telling you about a Spurs special on KENS 5 coming up soon. Yeah, stay tuned for that later on the show. Let's go and dive into things. Vinny, should we even look at tonight's game? Clippers. Do we dare?
It's on the schedule, so we might as well. And hey, I mean, the Spurs, to me, the last time these two hooked up a few days ago at the AT&T Center, I don't know about you, Jeff, but the Spurs seemed to score at will offensively that night. So maybe they'll do something again good for the Clippers.
I hope so. I hope so. That'd be good. I mean, we saw the Spurs kind of hanging tough versus the Blazers for at least 2 periods until things went off the rails in the second half. But yeah, you look at tonight's game, Spurs, Clippers. You look on the opposite end of the court, that being the Clippers side. Heavily talented from Paul George to Kawhi Leonard, whatnot. But should we just expect more of the same thing, Vinny, tonight? Just great second quarter from San Antonio, and then everything kind of just fizzles out at the end?
It's funny that you frame it like that, Jeff, because I was recently visiting with Bill Land from Spurs Television about that in the media room prior to a tip-off recently, and it's remarkable. What you just said is really the way it seems to pan out more often than not. It's so crazy that that's the way it's worked, but it has. So if you're going to go with tradition on this season, then the answer is yes. I guess that's what we should expect again. But if you want to know where I am on the Clippers, here's what I think. They're finally looking healthy. They say they're a championship contender, but which team will be available? Is it the team that really cares and wants to be locked in to defense that night? And will Kawhi and PG both play? And how engaged will they be? Because again, I thought the Spurs, before the Clips hit those late threes and closed it out, the Spurs got whatever they wanted offensively. Now they shot the ball well, but again, they got whatever they wanted. So how engaged will LA be? And the Spurs, I mean, we keep seeing these late collapses, and it's just a really intriguing question. Can they perhaps finally close one out?
Yeah, and Popovich said this after the game recently. I believe it was the Blazers game, where he said, there's not a problem with scoring. He says, we could do that. It's just getting those defensive stops. And Vinny, This Spurs team is bad on the defensive end. I mean, statistically, and they're near the bottom in most statistical defensive stats. God, times have changed in San Antonio, haven't they? Remember when the Spurs were just tops in the NBA in defense? They've really plummeted. Is that just simply a byproduct of a rebuild / a team made up of mostly teenagers and young 20-year-old kids?
Gotta be. I mean, it seems like that has to be the obvious answer as to why, and they've had so many injuries in the first half of this year's regular season, and they just haven't found that full commitment and on the defensive end. And as soon as I say all that, I remember stretches during the great 20-year run of Tim Duncan and company that Pop would occasionally use us, the media, to blast how bad they were defensively at times. So it's a work in progress, I guess. I mean, I'm watching the Portland game the other night that you mentioned, and as soon as they were in it, was it late in the third, early fourth? Suddenly it was 117 to 100 Portland, and I'm like, here we go again.
Yeah.
And then if you want the honest answer, I flipped away and looked at a few other channels and flipped back, and I'm like, my goodness gracious, Portland's going to get close to 150. This is unbelievable. So yeah, it's not good. I mean, it seems to be that you can almost book an opponent for 130 every night, as sad as that is. I don't know. I don't know, man. I mean, I guess the answer is it's just a work in progress.
Yeah. Vinny, and look, I know this is Locked On Spurs. We're focused on the Spurs, but, kind of just league wide, scoring is up. It doesn't matter. I think a team recently, I forgot which team it was, scored hit about 150 recently in a game, in a regular season game, regular period, 4 quarters, they hit 150. I forget which team it was. So
I tweeted
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I tweeted at the time of the Spurs-Clippers game. I tweeted at half, first team to 150. I mean, we would. There was a day when we would never have thought of that. I'm like, these teams scoring 75 and 80 around the league at the first half. I'm like, is this a product of everybody just shoots threes now, or we lack a transition defense? I mean, I have never seen anything like this. I mean, it is, if fans love scoring, they're very happy. But for those of us that are a little bit on the traditional train that like to see some lockdown defense, we're not seeing a ton of it these days.
No, not at all. And the thing about it is, I know the Spurs are celebrating their 50th anniversary, Vinny. So I guess they're doing a throwback to their ABA days, running gun. Is that what it is? Is that the answer, Vinny?
I hadn't even thought about that. Maybe you're right. That is a really good point, Jeff. Yeah, we need to talk to the Iceman and say, are we doing this on purpose? Is this happening for a reason? Is this the plan?
Iceman is probably saying, suit me up. I got a good 10 minutes in me. Let's do it. Once again, we are here on Locked On Spurs with my colleague and Kent's 5 on the sports side of things. On the TV side, he is Vinny Vinzetta. Make sure to follow him on Twitter right now. It is at VVINZETTA, V Vinzetta. Do that right now. Great follow, including if you're especially a Cowboys fan, because he tweeted some fire a couple of days ago regarding why there's no NFL team in San Antonio. You really got to go check that out, you Cowboy fans. But we're looking at tonight's game, Spurs-Clippers. The Spurs have a losing record on the second game of a back-to-back. I think they've only won one game, so history, at least recent history, doesn't bode well for the Spurs. Vinny, go ahead and put it out there. Who you got winning tonight?
I mean, I don't have any reason, unfortunately, to not go with the LA Clippers. But again, I'll go back to what I said earlier, Jeff. It just depends on what kind of LA team will show up and be committed, because if they are who they tell us they are, then they'll win this game. But I just think clearly they've underachieved, and there'd be an opportunity for the Spurs. As good as they looked against them at the AT&T Center the other night, there's an opportunity, but I'll still go ahead and pick the Clippers, sadly.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's just going to be, rinse repeat game for the Spurs. Very competitive for 2.5 quarters, and then that talent just kind of overtakes on the opposite end for the Spurs. That is the Clippers side overtakes it. Again, let's make it very clear. Vinny and I do not have the Spurs Clippers IR report. So obviously that can change our talk right now. But if we're just going based on what we know, then maybe Spurs get another L. Hey, Vinny, score one for Team Tank, if they get the L tonight. So yay for them.
As I have said on the air many times, Jeff, when I've given a final score or done a side story, and I've been on the anchor desk, I've come to the point where I say every time, blah blah blah, final scores. Some people like that, some don't. This is the kind of season that we're in the midst of. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. And what a perfect segue. When we get back, we're going to be talking about the rebuild, team tank, the top 3 picks in the NBA draft. And basically, we're just overlook and kind of get a broad brush. We're going to play what if. What if the Spurs do get one of the top 3 picks? Then what? Overnight success? How long will it take? Yeah, we're going to ask that question with Vinny Vinzetta, my colleague at Ken's 5. Make sure to follow him on Twitter. Once again, at VVinzetta. And yeah, do it right now. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. Look, we're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the number 1 sportsbook in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that makes betting on sports fun and easy. New customers join today. Get started with a $150. That's right. You get that in your pocket in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Sign up today at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance to get a bigger payout with a same game parlay. It's all on one app. It's safe, secure, super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Vinny Vinzetta, my colleague at Ken's 5 TV. He's on the sports desk, and follow him on Twitter at VVinzetta right now. And you really set off those Cowboys fans, didn't you? I'm looking at your Twitter right now. Woo!
I mean, it's a hot tweet, that's for sure.
Oh my God! Yeah, another reason. Go check out his Twitter. Make sure you do it right now and see what he put out there regarding why there's no NFL in San Antonio. But let's jump back into the Spurs realm of things. And Vinny, we joked about it in the first segment. Team tank, yay! Drop picks and whatnot, and top 3 picks. Okay, so we're gonna play what if. So Vinny, let's just say the Spurs have the basketball gods smile on them. They say, Spurs, here's your number 1 pick, you get Wemby. Or, oh no, not worst case scenario, you get the number 2 pick, and you get Scoot. Win-win in my opinion. Okay, so then what? So, yeah. Gone are the days, Vinny, of those Tim Duncans that just have overnight success for the franchise. You can remember when Timmy came, it was like a 20-something win season for the Spurs the prior, and then Timmy, and it's like 50. Robinson, 20-win season prior, he comes in, and it's a 50-win season. Do you expect that type of overnight success if the Spurs were to win the lottery or worst case scenario, get number 2 or 3?
That's a really interesting question, Jeff, because I think you just said it there. The season before they landed Timmy with the number 1 overall, and my goodness, how that forever changed NBA history.
Yep.
I believe that David was injured that year, so he was on the roster, of course, and was healthy for a rookie Timmy the next year. So you had some really good pieces in place for his rookie year. So I guess it depends on what you feel like you have if you were to land Wemby and or Scoot Henderson.
Yeah.
But I don't know that. Yeah, for example, if you land Wemby or Scoot, I don't think that necessarily means you're automatically in the finals next year. Obviously,
right? Yeah, obviously,
I'm one of those that thinks that fortunes in the NFL, for example, can turn rather quickly, but not necessarily every time in the NBA as quick, in my opinion. Do I think you're better by default? Without question, absolutely, 100% you're better by default, but you've got to cultivate that a little bit in today's NBA, I think. You've got to find all the complement pieces because the game has changed. And I think the good news there, Jeff, is you've got some players to work with, and for sure Keldon, Devin, and Sohan. We'll see how the Spurs look in and around February 9th after the trade deadline. But I don't know that they're immediately at the top of the list, but I think they're well on their way because the first couple of guys, Jeff, are generational players in Wemby and Scoot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. They are generational players. And here's the thing, too. You look at recent number 1 picks, your Cade Cunninghams, your this year, your Bancheros in Orlando. The closest maybe was Zion that perhaps could have transformed if he didn't get maybe hit with those injuries early on in the season in his career, excuse me. But I think gone are those days of those immediate impact like we saw with Robinson and Timmy. that just turned the franchise around. Perhaps LeBron. Would you throw LeBron in that pile when he went to Cleveland?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So these kids are coming out younger. They're 19. I don't think they're mentally ready, physically ready to shoulder a team to a almost a 180 franchise record turning, as we saw with Tim Duncan back then. Timmy was a 4-year college kid coming out. He was body ready, mentally ready to go. Robinson, same thing. So I think that's like the biggest difference right now. But what about this, Vinny? Let's just say we'll go. They win the Wemby sweepstakes. How much shorter then does the rebuild become?
If they say, Jeff, that he's the best talent in a decade plus, perhaps, then I think you're on a rapid course to a turnaround. Again, I am with you with the way the game has changed and mentality and youth and the way the league is constructed and works now, that it's not going to happen overnight. Like, they're not the final favorite just because of him.
Yeah.
People around him, but I don't think you're waiting that long. I think you're immediately competitive. But again, with today's NBA, it's about getting the right people around him. I think, to answer your question this way, the front office and sales folks within the Spurs organization and season ticket folks are extremely excited in a hurry if you land somebody like that.
Absolutely. The Wemby fever, or even I would even say Scoot fever, would take over San Antonio if they were to get the 1 or 2 pick. And I think the Spurs definitely need that franchise type player. Look, the current crop of players, they're good. Vinny and I were not bashing them. They're really good players. They're just not it. They're just not that next level. Keldon, maybe he will. Maybe he'll, another season in his belt, he'll get to that. We just don't know. Devin, same thing. Sohan, perhaps, but he's just a rookie. But they need that immediate impact player in today's era, and that could be either Scoot or Wemby. Vinny, I think right now, everybody kind of knows that it's a down season. You know it, I know it, fans know it, listeners know it. We get that. Your colleagues on the sports desk side, they get that. But Vinny, I guess the worst case scenario this season is the Spurs falling out of the top 3. Do you think that is a nightmare scenario for this team right now?
From the standpoint, you mean, Jeff, of kind of landing in the middle of the draft compared to?
Yeah, because let's be honest, Vinny. The draft is not going to start till maybe after at the 3rd pick. I think that's when it starts.
No, I think you're right on with that. I mean, if they're outside of that 14% chance for the number 1, and even above that, if you miss out, bottom line, if you miss out on Wemby or Scoot, I'm not sure what kind of a season you just played. I mean, nobody wants to talk about it for the record. These are questions that we just can't ask because everybody wants to win and compete. It's like, the Spurs are frustrated. They want to win games, for sure, everybody from top to bottom. But I think everybody also understands what is out there, and we're building for the future. So it's such a bizarre thing for me to deal with as a journalist this year. It's like, are you supposed to embrace the tank? Are we supposed to talk about on the air, embrace it? Such a bizarre thing. I just don't really know how to entirely handle it. I'm just sort of going game to game. And when I see the players' reaction during runs in the course of the game, they look like they really want to win. But then all of a sudden they have these fourth quarters, and again, it's another loss. So it's the strangest season I've ever professionally dealt with.
Yeah, it really is, and especially for this current generation of Spurs fans that grew up in the early 2000s to now. They were, we mentioned, this, I know that they were born into success for their local hometown team.
We were talking about this the other day. There's a generation of young people. There's a generation of young folks, Jeff, that have known nothing but winning, for the 20 years of the Duncan era. I mean, that's remarkable when you think about it.
It really is. And Vinny, I don't know how old you are, but I'm older. As far as the Spurs being in the NBA, not their every days, but like the Spurs and I grew up together. They're only a year older than me, and that's it. So I've been through approximately 3 rebuilds. This current one, the Duncan one, the pre-Duncan and the pre-Robinson, and so this is old hat for me. And I always tell these kids, like, hey, don't worry, it's going to get better. You just got to ride it out. That's all you can do. It'll get there. But it just feels that it just feels there's something about this draft, Vinny, that telling me they gotta hit on it. I mean, maybe you'll give them number 3. Okay, fine. You get the number 3 pick. You get your one of their Thompson's twins or what have you. But Vinny, I because how much longer can the city, or the Spurs organization continue not being in the playoffs, not getting play in, not having that talent? They'll get better next season, but just how much better if they don't win out the draft? And that worries me the most, Vinny, about the future of this team. Your thoughts?
It's a real thing, Jeff, because the Rockets want to win it. The Hornets want to win it. The Pistons want to win it. So, yeah, it is. Again, nobody wants to really talk about it on camera, but it is a race to the bottom. This is a real thing. It's just everybody's being careful, I think, with what injury reports look like and who's going to rest and who's the opponent. I mean, I think there is some mad science here and some method to the madness of how can we win the Wemby sweepstakes? How can we win Scoot? It's just, again, it's a really fascinating thing that just we have not normally dealt with in this market and with this team, but we sure are dealing with it this season.
Absolutely. We are here right on Locked On Spurs with my colleague at Ken's 5. He is Vinny Vinzetta. Follow him on Twitter at VVinzetta. Do it right now. And he's going to tease you about a Spurs special that you got to tune into on the Ken's 5 TV side of things. It's coming up very, very soon. But when we get back, we're going to wrap up our discussion. And I'm going to throw a little curveball on Vinny. I'm going to play a game of buy and sell with him. So hang on tight and we'll be right back. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with my colleague at Ken's 5. He is Vinny Vinzetta. Follow him on Twitter at VVinzetta. Do it right now. So let's going to wrap up our rebuild chat here. I still argue the Spurs should tank for this guy out of San Antonio called Vinny Vinzetta. I hear he plays great defense. I hear he's a lockdown defender, Vinny. And I think you should throw your name in the draft pool. You go for it, Vinny.
Jeff, your scouting report is right down the middle. Or dead wrong, one of the two.
I'm talking to a generational player right here, everybody. This is it. He's Vinny. Yeah, exactly. But all kidding aside, we'll go ahead and play. We'll be positive right now. We'll just be real positive. They get number 1 or number 2. They get Wemby or Scoot. How much longer from that point moving forward do you think the rebuild will last?
I'm going to give you just a couple of years. No more than 2. I mean, more than 2. Those two guys, one of those two guys changes the game. And with some pieces that you have, and with the draft capital that they currently have, and are likely looking for toward the trade deadline, I'm not sure it lasts too much terribly longer.
I'm right there with you. I think it shouldn't last about no more. In my opinion, I think no more than 3. I'll give him a third just to be on the safe side, but. 2 would be ideal. You got generational talent, impact players right away. Both players would mesh well with the current crop if it's still intact by the time they are drafted. So, yeah, I think if the Spurs get 1 or 2, Wemby or Scoot, the pain won't last that much longer, Vinny, because this season, it's been bad. That Portland game, God, that was just bad.
Every game they lose is like a microcosm of the season we're experiencing.
And you know what, too? And I also think about those post conferences with Popovich. Like, how much more can he say about the same thing over and over again? Now, I give him credit this year. He's been very patient with everybody, including the media. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I don't even ask him a question because you already know what the answers are going to be. Same thing. We didn't shoot the ball well. We turned the ball over. They had better talent. I mean, he says it all every game.
Yeah, I think the guys, from our competitors from the Express News are feeling the same frustrations. They're like, what do we ask at this point? But everybody's trying. Everybody's trying.
We're definitely trying. All right, let's go and play a game of buy and sell right here on Locked On Spurs with Vinny Vinzetta. Let's start off with the obvious. Buy or sell, Vinny. Jakob Poeltl will be a Spur after the trade deadline.
I'm going to sell that. I think that. Okay. I think that he'll be on the move, Jeff.
Wow. On the move. There's a part of me that hopes. I mean, this is like daydreaming here, Vinny. Can you imagine Poeltl re-signed? Because the Spurs have enough money to re-sign him. They got a lot of cash. And then having Wemby at his side. That's just a pipe dream.
Yeah, it's an amazing one-two punch
Yeah.
there. I will say this: Yak is so much better as a big man than when he arrived from Toronto. I mean, the
Oh,
Spurs
absolutely.
has taken him to new heights. So,
Mhm.
even though I'm going to sell that, it would be amazing because he's come so far. His game has improved by leaps and bounds.
All right, next question. Buy or sell? Every single player on the current roster is untouchable, including Sohan, Keldon, and Devin. So, in other words, you're buying or selling that no one is safe. Anybody could get traded.
I'm going to sell that.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
I think there are some pieces that absolutely are future pillars and will be around here for a while.
I agree with you. Yeah. I think you got to keep your Sohan. Sohan has been playing phenomenal in the last few games. I think his last
Oh,
5 games is just
has
ridiculous. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, has he ever? Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
he's been a great pick for them, and he's got game on both ends of the floor. He can shoot threes a little bit. He can finish on the inside, and he is the guy that wants to play defense and wants to be annoying. I mean, I go
Mhm.
back to that little dust up he had with was it Marcus Morris when the Clippers
Yes.
were here? I
Yes.
mean, he wants to be one of those guys. He wants to get in your face, and I love that about that attitude that he'll have with the Spurs.
Exactly. Yeah. And people forget too, he almost got Luka Doncic to really get in his face. I think one of Doncic's players, teammates kind of pulled him off, but he's got under the skin of Steven Adams, of Doncic, of Marcus Morris. Yeah, I mean, he embraces that. And
And I think
you,
that stuff is contagious for other roster players. So I love that
Mhm.
about Jeremy.
Absolutely. I mean, he had a judo takedown on Marcus Morris. That was cool. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. And finally, buy or sell. Uh, this could be Pop's last hurrah as an NBA head coach this season.
I am going
Tough one.
to
Yeah.
I'm going to go head over heart. I'm going to go heart over head here. I'm going to sell that. I
Okay.
believe that even though at media day he told us, that he would essentially eventually hand this over, maybe sooner than later. I still think the coach in him, even at 72, 73 years old, whatever he is, I believe the coach in him still wants to put this thing together and get it at least raring to go and to maybe make a championship run. So I am going to say that he's back next season.
It's definitely going to help if he wins the number 1 or number 2 pick. That definitely helps. That's really
That
going to put the Spurs. Yeah.
it's funny how that can change somebody's attitude immediately. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, but that's the thing. Would that change them to be okay? I feel good now. They're in the right spot. I'm going to take a step back, or is that going to just rejuvenate them? You're like, all right, let's. I'm going to jumpstart this now. I'm going to give them 2 more years to really get them on the track with this new crop of kids, and especially if it's a Wemby or Scoot. But yeah,
he seems
it's.
he seems to me as enthusiastic as ever. I mean, even after losses, he's smiling and hugging
Mhm.
opposing head coaches and players. I think he's into this and watching these guys develop and grow. And I think he likes this challenge, and he knows that he's probably going to wind up with a very high draft pick, if not the number 1 or number 2. And I think he
Mhm.
wants to embrace that challenge. I really do.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, as mentioned, he's been very patient with the kids. He's not. I can't. I don't. I think he maybe went to the soft thing a couple of times this season, maybe once, and I think that one time was definitely in the preseason. I remember that, but I don't. He doesn't go to the soft card as much. He talks about development. He's patient with you, me, and the rest of the media on those conference chats with him at the AT&T. So yeah, different pop, but he knows that comes with the territory. It's a rebuild. I mean, they know it. The closest I've heard, I don't know if you saw this, Vinny, and it was on the KensFi.com/Spurs site. And this, if you didn't catch it, no big deal, because this was early in the season. The closest I've seen a member of the Spurs brass to flat out almost say tank was Brian Wright. He did a spot with SiriusXM NBA radio
Oh
ahead
wow.
of the start of the season, and they talked about the DeJounte trade and the Derek trade. And he danced around that word. He was an inch away from just saying it's a tank. And he talked about, we have to read the room. We have to make decisions for the immediate future. He was I was like, say it, Brian, say the T word. He just never did. He got close. He got super close. But
I mean,
yeah.
I think that right there tells you a lot about the framework of what this season is.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We're done talking, but we definitely want to hear from you. But before we tell you how to follow us on social media and whatnot, Vinny's going to tell you about a Spurs special that's coming on Ken's 5 TV soon. What you got cooking?
Yeah, on Saturday the 28th, Jeff, we have a special celebrating 50 years of Spurs basketball. It's called 50 on 5, and we have a lot of interesting looks in the half hour. There's a number of us on set, myself and Nate Ryan and Casey Vieira, and we have Bill Taylor, who's been around. He does weather for Ken, but he's seen a lot of Spurs success over the years, and one of our news reporters and anchors, Matt Houston, will be along with us. I was able to spend some great time with former Spur who grew up right here in the city, played at South Sands West Campus and then UTSA, and then won a title with the Spurs in 2005, Devin Brown. Matt Houston was able to sit down and talk to the great Iceman about the life in the Hemisphere Arena, and then the Alamo Dome as well, and some of the history that went on there. I take a look back at 50 years of Spurs basketball through the eyes of the retired jerseys in the rafters, and I'm really proud of how that piece came out. And Nate spent some time with Keldon Johnson talking about sort of his life, and Nate whipped out some flashcard questions and had some fun with him as well. And we also kind of hear some of the best from Pop over this season. So it's a lot of fun. We had a lot of energy, and it's going to be a great 30 minutes celebrating the fans and 50 years of the Silver and Black, Jeff.
So I cannot wait to watch that myself and check you guys out on how y'all put that together. Sounds like it's going to be a blast. I think all fans should definitely be checking that out. And it will be on Ken's 5 TV. So make sure y'all keep an eye out for that. Speaking of the Hemisphere Arena, I remember, Vinny, when it was just one floor. It didn't have an upper deck. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And going in where smoking was allowed. They used to allow smoking in the Hemisphere. And that place would have a haze across the court. Another memory I have is I was a kid and I walked up to the Lakers bench, and it was the AC Green, your Magic Johnsons, your Worthies, your Coopers. And AC Green shot me down for an autograph. He said, "No, kid." And here's something that's in the vault. Pat Riley, he used to use kind of like tearaway play. He had a tearaway playbook. So it was like, they were blue, and he had like the court was outlined in black. And he would write the plays, and he would peel them off, crumble them up, and throw them on underneath his seat, the bench. I took those, and I still have those plays from Pat Riley. Mm-hmm.
That is a cool piece of NBA history, Jeff. Wow.
Uh-huh. I still have those. Yeah, they're crumpled up. They're all messed up, and you see his scribbling, his plays, and everything. The dotted lines, the block. This pick sign, everything. So I'm glad I held on to those. But yeah. But looking forward to that, Vinny. It sounds like your piece sounds interesting too. The eyes of the retired jerseys. That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah, that'll be 9:30. By the way, on Saturday we have the Spurs game on Ken's from a 7 to 9:30 window, and then the special from 9:30 leading into the news on Saturday the 28th this weekend. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Another reason why everybody should be following Vinny right now on Twitter. It's at Vinzetta, VVINZETTA. Do it right now. And again, especially if you're a Cowboys fan, you want to hear the little nugget that he tweeted out recently. And check him out on the sports side on Ken's 5 TV. When are you on air? Are you on there Monday through Thursday? Is that how it works?
I kind of bounce around. Our regular anchors are Nate Ryan and Casey Vieira, but you never know when I'm going to pop up, and I'm always working on features, and then I jump on set when needed. I mean, I did several days last week, but not as many this week. So I'm kind of a utility infielder, if you will. But always make my presence known. I'll be around for sure.
Absolutely. Make sure to follow him on Twitter as well. And thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. Second listen, check out Game to Game NBA, every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. Same for Locked On Spurs, YouTube page, the Ken's 5 Plus app. Odyssey app, pick a platform. We are there. And hopefully the next time Vinny comes in, he'll drop and he'll break news that he is being scouted by the Spurs to be their next generational player. I hope that happens the next time you come on, Vinny. But for Vinny Vinzetta, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock in this episode of Locked On Spurs.